I've spent years burying this secret, convincing everyone I was fine while my entire life was rotting underneath. I thought silence kept me safe, but the truth is darker than anyone imagines. And now it won't stay buried. Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day. I spent 3 years hiding the fact that I had lupus, 3 years pretending I was flawless, untouchable, the perfect high school queen. And it all came crashing down at state championships when my body finally betrayed me in front of everyone. The secret I thought was mine alone? It wasn't. After I confessed the truth, my mom revealed she'd been hiding the same disease for over 2 decades. And instead of helping me, she spiraled, throwing away my meds, stalking me at school, even trying to shove healing smoothies down my throat. Things got so bad she ended up on a psychiatric hold after attacking hospital staff. Later, I learned she'd been tracking my symptoms since the day I was born, waiting for the illness she knew I'd inherit. But let me back up. To everyone else, I was the girl you wanted to be. Captain of the dance team, straight A's, dating Terrence Mitchell, the quarterback everyone worshipped. On the outside, I was sparkling. On the inside? My alarm went off at 5 a.m. Not for a morning jog, but for the pills I had to take on an empty stomach. That glow across my cheeks people envied? Concealer covering the angry, red butterfly rash. I was diagnosed at 14. I still remember the ride home from the rheumatologist. My mom gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. Her first words weren't about my health. They were about appearances. No one needs to know. You're still going to be perfect. So I became perfect. For 3 years I played the part. My best friend Amelia posted constantly about how bubbly and unstoppable I was. She had no clue I was crushing prescription stimulants between my teeth in bathroom stalls just to stay awake. Coach Davidson once pointed at me in front of the whole team. Look at Chloe. She never misses practice. That's what champions look like. I smiled through the blood in my mouth. Terrence bragged to his buddies that I wasn't high maintenance like their girlfriends. She never complains, never has emotional days. She just shows up perfect. Every compliment felt like another lock on my cage. By March, my body was breaking down. ER visits went from once a month to every single week. I knew which bathrooms were empty during which periods, perfecting the art of throwing up silently between AP classes. Then Dr. Patel looked at my labs and went pale. Chloe, your kidneys are showing damage. You're heading toward organ failure. But state championships were in 3 weeks. And when she warned me flatly, you could die, all I said was, just 3 more weeks. The morning of the competition, I was still hooked to IVs. I signed myself out against medical advice at noon, changed into my sparkly costume in a gas station bathroom, and forced myself through the routine. Every move hurt. Every sequin cut into my swollen skin. And during the aerial I'd done 1,000 times, something inside me snapped. Black. I woke up to monitors beeping in rhythm with my heart. Still in costume, sequins embedded into my skin. My phone buzzed non-stop, someone had live-streamed my collapse. Dance champion down was trending. The comments? Brutal. Eating disorder. Drama queen. Attention seeker. But one comment stopped me cold. Look at her face before she falls. That's not exhaustion. That's someone dying. When I came back to school, I was unrecognizable. The rash was worse, my body puffed from steroids, some days I needed a cane. No concealer in the world could hide it. At lunch, I finally broke. I have lupus. I've had it for 3 years. I pulled out my pill organizer, 15 pills, not the cute vitamins I'd pretended to take on TikTok. Terrence slid back in his chair. Is it contagious? He blurted, loud enough for the cafeteria to hear. Amelia's reaction cut deeper. Why didn't you tell me? I thought we were best friends. I need time to process this. Within days, everything I'd built crumbled. Coach suggested I manage the team since dancing was too much now. Party invites stopped. The prom queen campaign vanished. And Terrence? He lasted 1 week. I'm 17. I shouldn't have to deal with someone who's sick. I need a girlfriend who can actually do things. Amelia replaced me with Sophia from volleyball. I was alone. Then came the principal's office. My mom was waiting there, mascara streaked, sobbing. And she dropped the bomb. I have it too, Chloe. I've been hiding lupus for 20 years. The silence after that felt like a canyon between us. My rage burned hotter than my fevers. She'd forced me to carry the same secret, the same perfectionist mask, knowing exactly what it cost. At home, she wouldn't stop hovering, sitting at the foot of my bed while I slept, pushing supplements, clipping articles, insisting she knew better than doctors. My dad tried to keep peace but was just lost. One morning, I found my meds missing. She'd flushed them, replacing life-saving immunosuppressants with turmeric capsules and essential oils. She screamed it was for my own good. My dad finally saw how far she'd gone. The doctor confirmed missing doses could kill me. But it didn't stop her. She picked my lock at night, trying to force-feed me thick green smoothies. She stalked me at school, peering into classrooms, following me between periods, parking outside with binoculars. Students started calling me Psycho's daughter. The final straw? A hospital blood draw. My mom grabbed the tray and hurled the needles across the room, screaming about experiments and conspiracies. Security had to drag her out as she kicked and bit at them. They held her for 72 hours on a psychiatric hold. During that window, my dad and I fled to my grandmother's house. He filed for custody and a restraining order. For the first time in years, I slept 14 hours straight. No one checked my pulse in the middle of the night. No one shoved smoothies at my face. No one reorganized my meds like trophies of control. And for the first time I realized something terrifying. My mom's battle was never with lupus. It was with her own reflection, and she'd been willing to destroy me just to keep pretending she wasn't broken. When my mom was released, the doctors gave her a diagnosis: medical anxiety disorder. They prescribed therapy, but of course she refused to go. Instead, she turned her obsession on us full force. She blew up my dad's phone with hundreds of calls a day, leaving voicemails that grew more frantic by the hour. She claimed she was dying, that her lupus was flaring because I wasn't there to remind her to take her pills. Was it manipulation? Absolutely. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't make my chest tighten every time I heard those messages. She stalked me online with fake accounts, sliding into my comments with medical advice and warnings about how my friends were corrupting me. I blocked her. She made new accounts. I went private. She messaged my friends directly, begging for updates on my health. And then she showed up at my grandmother's house. I was home alone. She looked worse than I'd ever seen her. Thinner. Gaunt. Her own lupus clearly spiraling out of control from stress and neglect. She pressed her face against the window, whispering and then shouting for me to let her in. She had new research, she said. Treatments that would save us both. I called my dad, heart pounding, while she pounded on the glass. By the time he arrived, she had moved to the backyard, yanking at window screens. The police showed up, already familiar with her, and took her away without hesitation. The restraining order came through the next week. 500 feet. She wasn't allowed near me, my school, or my grandmother's house. In court, she represented herself, walking in with a massive binder stuffed with medical printouts, claiming it was evidence that she was protecting me. The judge wasn't impressed. He ordered psychiatric treatment. And for the first time in years, there was peace. I started settling into routines again. I took my meds consistently. Went to appointments without drama. Even started seeing friends again. My body responded. The swelling faded. My energy came back. For the first time, I felt like I was actually living with lupus instead of fighting against it. But then the letters started. She'd found a loophole. Mail wasn't considered direct contact as long as it wasn't threatening. So every week, thick envelopes showed up at school, stuffed with medical research, warnings about steroids, lists of supplements. They grew heavier and heavier until the school finally refused delivery. And she didn't stop there. She hired a private investigator to follow me. I'd find photos of myself at the doctor's office showing up in our mailbox, notes scribbled on the back about how tired I looked. When I saw her car parked outside my rheumatologist's office with a note taped to my windshield, an article about a girl who died from lupus meds, my name written across the top in red, I thought I might actually throw up. My grandmother started driving me everywhere, but even that didn't stop the harassment. She called relatives, spreading lies about my dad poisoning me, about my grandmother covering it up. Some family members even started wondering if maybe she had a point. The stress broke me. One morning, I woke up unable to move my hands, my joints so swollen I couldn't even turn a doorknob. My grandmother found me crying on the bathroom floor and rushed me to the hospital. That's where my mother took things to a new level. She showed up outside the hospital with a megaphone, screaming that the doctors were kidnapping me. Security had to form a perimeter. The local news showed up. And from my window, I watched her collapse in the parking lot, her own untreated lupus finally catching up with her. The irony? They admitted her to the same hospital. 3 floors below me. My dad had to make medical decisions for her when she refused treatment. Kidney support, high-dose steroids, the same medications she had sworn were poison. Her chart showed inflammation levels worse than mine had ever been. 2 decades of denial had eaten her alive. I snuck down once while she was sedated. She looked small in that bed. Fragile. Her face swollen from the very drug she'd tried to tear from my hands. When she woke up, she demanded to see me. Threatened to walk out against medical advice unless I came. The doctors warned without treatment she could die. And even though I knew it was manipulation, it still worked. I sat outside her room, visible through the glass but out of reach. She pressed her palms against the window, mouthing "I'm sorry" and "please." Nurses told me she only took her meds if they pretended I was watching. She had turned even her own survival into another way of controlling me. I stopped visiting. When I was finally discharged, my grandmother wheeled me past her floor. My mom's screams echoed down the hall, my name twisting into something feral. It followed me into the elevator. Into the car. Into my dreams. She was released 2 weeks later, physically stable, mentally shattered. Court-ordered therapy. Weekly blood tests to prove she was actually taking her meds. Forced compliance. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. For my 18th birthday, she sent a package through my dad's lawyer. Inside? 18 years of obsessive records. Notes tracking every symptom I'd ever had, starting from infancy. She'd been waiting, documenting, preparing for the day lupus showed up in me. The worst part? There was a letter. Written to my future self on the day I was born. A promise to protect me from the pain she'd endured. To make sure I never felt the shame she had. She loved me into sickness. Smothered me until I couldn't breathe. I burned it all in my grandmother's backyard. Pages curling to ashes, my father held my hand. It felt like an exorcism. By the time I turned 19, the restraining order expired. I didn't renew it. Instead, I gave her one condition: 6 months of therapy and proof of medical compliance before I'd even consider supervised contact. She lasted 3 months. Then claimed her psychiatrist was trying to brainwash her. But I wasn't trapped anymore. I graduated high school from my grandmother's district, surrounded by people who saw me as more than the girl who collapsed at state championships. In my college essays, I wrote about breaking cycles of trauma. About learning to live on my own terms. The letters still come, forwarded unopened to a storage unit. Maybe someday I'll read them. Not today. The last time I saw her was at a rheumatology conference. She was in the audience taking notes during a lecture on pediatric lupus. She looked healthier, more controlled. When our eyes met across the hall, she raised her hand slightly. A wave, a question. I nodded once. Nothing more. It was the most honest exchange we'd had in years. My father says she's in a support group now. That she's learning slowly that love doesn't mean control. I hope that's true. As for me, I still take my meds every morning. Still see Dr. Patel. Still manage flares. But I do it on my terms. The butterfly rash across my cheeks? I don't hide it anymore. It's not shame. It's proof I survived. The next few months were quiet. No letters. No investigators lurking in the shadows. No surprise legal filings dropped on our doorstep. For the first time in years I could breathe. I threw myself into school and for once I didn't feel like the sick girl hiding behind makeup and excuses. I even joined a chronic illness support group on campus. These were people who got it. Students juggling meds and flares while chasing their dreams anyway. We laughed about the ridiculous timing of symptoms, traded exam survival strategies, even compared pill organizers like they were fashion accessories. But spring semester tested me. A brutal flu outbreak ripped through campus and for me it wasn't just a flu, it was a trigger. My lupus flared so badly I ended up hospitalized for a week. Lying there hooked up to IVs, I couldn't help thinking about my mother. Not with rage. Not with fear. But with something closer to pity. My dad came every day balancing my homework and updates from professors like it was his full-time job. My grandmother sent care packages, warm socks, actual soothing teas. None of that spirulina sludge nonsense my mom once tried to force down my throat. And my support group friends? They showed up too, stopping by between their own classes and treatments. For the first time I felt supported without being smothered. Recovery was slow. I lost 3 weeks of classes, but disability services worked with me to catch up. Professors who had watched me carefully manage my health for over a year went out of their way to help. One even pulled me aside to share her own autoimmune journey, giving advice that was practical, not patronizing. By summer, life took a turn I never expected. I landed an internship at a nonprofit dedicated to healthcare advocacy. They wanted someone who lived with chronic illness, someone who understood firsthand what that meant. I said yes without hesitation. For the first time, my pain had a purpose. On day 1, I met Robert, another intern living with type 1 diabetes. We bonded instantly. Shared frustrations like people suggesting yoga or cinnamon as miracle cures. He became one of my closest friends, someone who understood without me having to explain. The work opened my eyes even wider. Families torn apart by medical control. Parents who couldn't let go. Young adults fighting tooth and nail just to make their own decisions. Over and over I saw my story mirrored back at me. And then one day I saw a name on the workshop list that made my stomach drop. My mother. She had signed up for the Parents of Chronically Ill Young Adults program. My supervisor noticed me go pale and quietly reassigned me that day. From the office window I watched her arrive early, sitting in her car for 20 minutes before finally walking in. And when she did, she looked better. Not perfect, but healthier. Presentable. Hair done, clothes that actually fit. She sat in the back corner with a notebook. The facilitator later told me she was respectful, asked good questions and admitted, briefly, that she'd struggled with accepting her daughter's independence. She didn't mention my name. She didn't hover in the parking lot. She didn't push boundaries. She came back every week. For 2 months. My supervisor asked if I wanted her removed. And I thought about it long and hard. But in the end I said no. If she was truly trying to change, even just a little, I wouldn't block that path. But I also wouldn't engage. My healing couldn't depend on hers. By senior year I had a new fire. I'd been chosen for a research position studying quality of life in young adults with autoimmune diseases. It was deeply personal work but also bigger than me. My advisor encouraged me to weave my own experiences into the research. At first I resisted. But when I finally put my story into words, analyzing it, naming it, I felt powerful. The patterns were undeniable. Parents confusing love with control. Kids forced to choose between health and family loyalty. Trauma carved into us under the banner of protection. Graduation came faster than I expected. I got accepted into graduate programs in public health. My dad planned a celebration with my grandmother and close friends. No extended family. No risk of surprise appearances. But then a package arrived. It was small. Neatly wrapped. Inside was a single item, my baby bracelet from the hospital. The one my mom had kept in her jewelry box since the day I was born. A typed note read, "This belongs to you. Congratulations on your graduation." No threats. No manipulation. Just that. I tucked it into my jewelry box, unsure what to feel. Graduation day was warm, the sky clear. I took my meds, applied sunscreen, pulled on my cap and gown. The butterfly rash across my cheeks showed in every photo, and I didn't care. It was part of me. As I walked across that stage I heard my dad and grandmother cheering like crazy. My support group friends whistled, clapped. Dr. Patel had sent a card that my dad proudly waved. These were my people. My chosen family. But at the far edge of the parking lot I saw her. My mother. She stood by her car, watching from a distance. She didn't wave. Didn't call my name. Didn't break the boundary. She just watched. For a moment. And then she drove away. My dad saw her too and tensed, ready to react. But I touched his arm and shook my head. There was nothing to do. She hadn't broken the fragile peace. And in her own way that was progress. That night, surrounded by the people who supported me without controlling me, I thought about the journey. From hiding my illness to embracing it. From being controlled to reclaiming autonomy. From shame to advocacy. Lupus was still here. It would always be here. But it was no longer my prison. My illness is a part of me, but it's not my whole identity. The butterfly rash across my cheeks? It's not something to cover anymore. It's a mark of survival. A reminder that I lived through the fire and came out stronger. My mom finally learned how to sit quietly in the back row. Took a restraining order, years of chaos and the breaking of our family, but she found her way there eventually. As for me? I'm moving forward. Into public health. Into advocacy. Into a life where pain fuels purpose. The scars are still here. But so is the strength. And this time I'm the one writing the story. Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.